Okay, thank you very much for taking time to make this kind of conversational opportunity about your compositions for the Young Composer Project for the ASME 22nd National Conference here in Perth. So we've just heard all your compositions and they were extraordinary. They were amazing. Everybody's been talking about how blown away they are by your works. So I'll introduce each of you. We have Jane, who was our clarinetist, our professional UWA staff clarinetist who performed in your compositions. Then Finn from Tasmania, Sam from Queensland, Luca from New South Wales, Lara from South Australia, and Isaac and Nathan and Kale from Western Australia. So I'm just going to ask you some questions about your compositional process and how you found the Young Composer in Residence project here in Perth. So my first question is, what motivated you to begin composing?
And so for me, I've actually got quite a cute little story. I had taken a break off playing the piano for about 3 years, and I just got a new teacher who was kind of talking about what type of pieces he wanted me to do, or like what kind of things I wanted to get started into. And he gave me Philip Glass's Piano Etudes book, and I absolutely loved it. I had never heard anything like it, and it was so fun to play. It was kind of just such an amazing experience that really reinvigorated me towards playing music. And as I was playing them, I played through them and I was like, oh, what if I just did this instead at this bar? And I was like, oh, what if I took like that kind of motif, and what if it was here and like these little things were played instead? And so I made like these variations based on those etudes, and they weren't very good, but I showed them to my teachers and they kind of refined them and listened to them and kind of gave me feedback. And from there, I just kind of got more and more confidence composing for things like outside of the piano, for a larger ensemble, things for choirs, because I sing in a lot of choirs, and I got support from my conductors to help me compose in that regard. And so it was just kind of that one book that kind of really inspired me to be not just a performer, but also to take musical material and make it my own and create something out of it.
Fantastic. How long ago was that when you started?
It was probably around 2015, okay. And so when I was in about grade 9, and so I composed these piano works for about a year, and I say I wouldn't have called myself a composer until about 2017, and that's when I was really getting into kind of composing for proper ensembles and then asking people to do my work, and so yeah.
And how was it to hear your piece today realised by an ensemble?
Today it was absolutely amazing. They all did such a fantastic job with realising my piece, and what was not a very easy piece, but they kind of really captured the essence of it. They really captured what I was going for, and it was so brilliant. It wasn't just standing up there and conducting. It's like, yep, no, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm kind of taking my life's direction, and I'm really happy with that. And so, yeah, it was so satisfying.
And I noticed you were the only one who conducted your piece today. So was that a choice you made, or? That
was a choice James and I both made. We were going through the rehearsal process, and because of the way that I had written it, that there was a lot of complex polyrhythm that if it was going to be unconducted, that it just would have needed a lot more rehearsal time. It just made everything kind of more cohesive if I conducted it myself. And I was a little bit scared because my last experience with conducting wasn't very good. I wouldn't consider myself a very good conductor. And so he was just like, all you have to do is go up there and count to 6. And I said, okay. And I kind of took that risk, and I think it paid off, and I'm really happy that I did it.
You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
I thought. Jane, how did you find Sam's piece when you were having it conducted for you?
Yeah, it just made so much sense. Like Sam said, when we were going through the rehearsal process, especially on the second day, first day we had Jim conducting everything just to really streamline getting the ensemble to work together. But we tried it without a conductor and it was all a bit, oh my gosh, what are we doing? So we had the conductor and yeah, definitely just made everything feel really coherent and interlock.
Thank you. So anybody else want to share what motivated you to start composing?
So I listened to a lot of music as a kid, especially the Wiggles, and I keep going through phases and phases, and eventually I ended up in an electronic phase, and I wanted to make electronic music, and I realised I had GarageBand on my computer, so I just started writing music for GarageBand, and that slowly evolved into writing scores, and then now I'm here as a composer, I guess.
Fabulous.
I guess for me, it started off probably about 10 years ago. I started learning my first instrument, violin. And I learned that for a few years, moved on to the viola a few years ago, and I guess around that time when I changed instruments, all throughout playing an instrument, it made me realise, well, I really do love music and it's what I want to do as a career and live my life. So had a few teachers helped me, a few peers, and went from there, and that's basically the start of my composing career with Sibelius, of course.
I started with just trying to write a piece for my cello, because I was just playing the cello at the time, and I sort of just wrote by hand. Didn't know there was programs out at the time, so I made a lot of errors. And then I was introduced to Sibelius, and my life went downhill with Sibelius. Pain, torture.
Sibelius crashed.
There's nothing wrong with handwriting your compositions. It's just a bit more time-consuming, I think.
It's more, I understand what I'm doing with handwriting, but I've always just wasted my time just trying to draw the notes correct. Yeah, so I found that Sibelius was just like, don't have to worry about the notes, I can just get putting them down.
And Lara, you're our female representative amongst this group, which is awesome. But and can you share with us what motivated you to start composing?
Well, my mum's a music teacher, and she had Sibelius on her laptop for like work. And I don't know, I was like really fascinated with it. Like I'd watch her make stuff for her concert band, and I don't know, I might have been like year 6, and I was like, hey, can I try and use this? And yeah, I guess like when I got into high school, I started using it more frequently, and I've got it on my own computer now, and yeah, I just do it a lot.
Brilliant.
Well, I could say I started, well, I mean, this kind of knack for music kind of started when I was 5, when I started learning piano. When I started really get into composing is when I actually discovered a lot of electronic music. I had kind of a phase there. For about 4 years, I was just making electronic music on FL Studio, which is a digital audio workstation. And while I was doing piano on the side, I wasn't really enjoying it until I was in a concert. See, I'm doing the Suzuki method was doing the Suzuki method for piano, which is basically you go through, like there's these books and you kind of go through all these pieces and stuff. And it was just every time you kind of graduate from a book, you play a piece and you kind of graduate from that book, and you go to the opera house into one of the rooms and perform it in front of other Suzuki students, and some were just playing. And you could play whatever piece you want. You didn't have to play the graduation piece. But I think one time, it was around 2015, there were a lot of these kids that weren't from our kind of group, from our teacher. They were playing all these pieces that really fascinated me. There were these I think one of them was a Khachaturian piece, and it really fascinated me, really got me into just looking into more classically oriented music. And I kind of started with Chopin. I went to Impressionism, and I went to 20th century. I kind of absorbed all of this kind of music, and I felt like I kind of wanted to compose this kind of music. I liked the way the harmonies were. I kind of wanted to implement them into stuff that was my own, and kind of use my prior knowledge from composing electronic music and trying to maybe incorporate it into my electronic music even, and kind of, and I just thought that, well, it all fascinates me, so I just start composing for piano, my good instrument, and then recently I've been doing violin and string quartets, and I can, pretty much, and now I'm here.
And Finn, I know that in Tasmania you've had one of your pieces performed and recorded by the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra, is that correct?
Yeah, well, from members of the orchestra, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I've been, composing since I was probably about 14 or so, and I'd say similar to Sam, there was an inciting incident that started the ball rolling in terms of really enjoying it, and I think mainly just hearing, I think one of my teachers, he was just playing the piano, and then I was really inspired by that, and just went home and randomly started writing. I've never done anything like it before that I can remember, and then from then on I was just really obsessed with hooked is a nice way of putting it. With locking yourself away in a room and slaving away at the piano. No, but it's really really enjoyable, and I think for me, when I hear a piece of music that I really like, sometimes I go, I want to perform that, but most of the time it's I want to write something that cool. Yeah. So that's the main inspiration, is hearing other people's works and new works and ones throughout history. Yeah.
So is there a specific composer or genre that is, or is it just an eclectic mix of different?
Yeah, well, pretty eclectic really. Mm-hmm. I feel like a few other people go through phases of focusing on something, being quite into it, but really eclectic. And I've been listening to electronic music, some electronic dance music, and then I like lots of 20th century classical music, and I've played in orchestras for years just on violin, and also doing folk music, so it's quite eclectic, but it's all music, and it's great how that informs your particular mix in the cooking pot of your music. Just how it informs practice.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
So you talked about Philip Glass as being, the primary inspiring composer that informed the beginning of your composition career. And you talked about a whole lot of different composers and genres of music as well. Anybody specifically that motivates you, or a genre that motivates you, or inspires you, or informs your process?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the romantic and sort of romantic cast 20th century stuff. In particular, you got the works of like the Salty Sweets and his Gymnopedes. And I just love Liszt's Rhapsodies, Hungarian Rhapsody, you name it. It's all over the place, really. Tchaikovsky, Debussy. So I love the minimalist kind of impressionist French composers. The French composers are really where I get my inspiration from. I listen to all their pieces.
Most of my inspiration comes from a lot of game music, music that's just played in backgrounds of games. And most of mine have not really got. I'm more of a modern listener, so it's a lot more modern classical.
It doesn't really come out through my music that much, but I listen to a lot of ska. A lot of ska punk and all that stuff from the 90s, just 90s, 80s, just all that weird stuff, and especially a lot of new stuff now. A lot of jazz has really turned weird with electronic music and like electronic equipment. So putting saxophones through octave pedals and all that sort of really interesting things are what really inspire me.
Because your composition Pride was the only one that had a drum kit as part of your ensemble.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by like drums, whether that be like Dirty Loops versions where like there's like 10 toms. There's like one big one over there. Or like simple stuff by
big
Nate
ones.
Smith, which is just a snare drum, a hi-hat and a kick drum. Like, it's so versatile and can do so many different styles, and I just love the instrument, even though I've never played it.
I was just going to say, are you a drummer?
No, I play brass instruments primarily.
Yeah. So have you? But you've obviously done a lot of study, or have familiarised yourself with the possibilities of a drum kit in order to. How important is that to understand the instruments that you're composing for? And Jane, you can probably pitch in with this question as the clarinetist. I noticed you were doing, was it yours, Finn, the acquascension?
Yeah.
Was that yours?
Got to do multiphonics.
Yes, I know, which was astounding. But you know, are you a clarinetist?
No.
Ah.
So you have to definitely consult them because it's impossible for us to know that level of understanding of the instrument. Yeah.
Sophisticated, like extra effects. So how was that for you?
Well, actually, when I first saw Finn's piece, I thought he must be a clarinetist. Like, you can't write like this when you don't know the instrument. So, yeah, it is really important. I think, yeah, definitely really important to understand like all the little idiomatic intricacies of every instrument. I think that's something that definitely was discussed a lot over the past couple of days, was working out what could I do here instead of using this technique, and also building on techniques that I guess people had implemented in their compositions. Adding extra little things. I know Sean was really on the violin. I think he definitely did a lot with a lot of the work. So yeah, just learning all those little intricacies of every instrument and having those discussions.
And was it also yours where you used the bow on the cymbal?
Yeah, you're just exploring percussion's amazing because there's just so many sounds you can get out and so many different instruments and ways of playing around, like any instrument. But yeah, percussionists seem pretty keen to get out there and experiment. So
was that your idea to use the bow on the?
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
Had you seen that somewhere before, or was that just like I wonder what it would sound like if I did this?
I can't think of a specific piece, but I mean it's in a lot in like cheesy horror music in films from but I seem to remember walking around, this is a couple of years ago, I seem to remember walking around in the percussion room and I'd play the violin, so having my violin bow and just going, what does this sound like? So kind of experimenting.
As you do.
Yeah,
Putting blossom over everything. It was,
That's actually
experimenting, making new sounds and colours.
So I guess that part of the compositional process also is experimenting with different sounds and different expressions of how to produce sound. So coming back to the understanding the instruments for which you're composing for, I know Lara, you said you had originally composed your 12 pieces for
flute and cello and
flute and cello.
Yeah.
Which are you play flute?
I play flute, not cello.
Yeah, yeah. So how difficult was it to kind of transcribe or adapt that for a different instrumentation?
Not too hard. I kind of play clarinet as well, not violin, but I feel like the flute part fit really well. I had to kind of edit the cello quite a lot, but I feel like it turned out really well. Yeah.
So which do you prefer? Your original
flute.
composition?
No, actually, I feel like this one, the clarinet and violin one, was a lot better because I wrote the flute and cello one quite a while ago, actually, and it's like 15 minutes, and it's, I don't know, I just feel like this one's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated with the idea that your 12 pieces were based on 12 different keys.
Yeah.
Was that the starting point of your composition, or did it just kind of evolve? That idea evolved out of what you were writing?
I don't know. I can't really remember, but I feel like I did kind of want to write like a collection, and I feel like the one in each key kind of like, I don't know, it was like a good continuity thing in a way.
the theme that links them all together.
Yeah.
So how did you find the process of working with James, who is an amazing composer, and we know his viola concerto is being played tonight and tomorrow night with Wasso. And I think some of you are coming to that concert. But what was it like to go through? Is that the first time you've done a workshop situation with a composer in residence who worked on your pieces? Is that the first time for you, or have you done this before?
So for Tamworth at some point, I did it twice, but there was a little composer workshop where originally there was going to be Richard Gill coming down and doing compositions, but he was sick with cancer. So we got Paul Stanhope from Sydney Conservatorium we just submit a string quartet, goes for a minute. You just submit it and he has a look at it and he gives you some help and stuff. And that's kind of been my experience with the composer. He ended up coming over twice for the second time because the guy who was at Sydney couldn't even come because he had a loss in the family. He had to go to a funeral, so he was there again. But yeah, and it was really insightful, especially talking to session musicians. But yeah, and because they know how the violin works, and that was my first time, composing for a string quartet, and yeah. But as for the composer, he was really helpful in terms of, because it was also my first time talking to a proper composer who knows what he's doing, and really insightful as well.
Anybody else had experiences with?
Our school had a program that was called Composition Camp, in which it was just a bunch of kids that would go up into the Blue Mountains for a week with a composer in residence, and so we had Toby Wren one year and Dan Walker as well. Which are two absolutely fantastic Australian composers, and it was actually reasonably similar to this, in which it's a kind of quick turnaround between the piece being workshopped and the piece being rehearsed. And so James gave some incredible advice about when your composition is in a situation like this, in which it's literally some rehearsal and then immediately to the performance, is that it's, time is money, and that you need to be able to be prepared when you're bringing these things. He gave some fantastic tips on how we can do that, and how I think it's more like a more realistic scenario of having our pieces performed, of it's kind of with session musicians that are only just seeing it, and then you kind of give some quick feedback and then it's out there. And so we gave some really insightful tips about making that transition.
Yeah. Isaac, you were going to say something?
Yes, sorry. That's fine. At Guildford, where 3 WA kids come from, Gerard Brophy comes in every year to just help with the composition students, and he's very inciting. He's got a interesting vocabulary. He's but very inciting, and tells me a week before exams were due that my piece was probably not the best idea, but it's
life's hard out there, isn't it? In the music world, that's a reality, isn't it?
No, Jared's very good at being realistic with pieces, but he's also, an incredible help that he does, I think, macro level stuff of considering shape and structure and the effect of the piece. Kind of, he does that so fantastically. But if it's a week out and he's decided, he will say.
Yeah, so that's the great thing working with James, is that he was really insightful about in his feedback, and obviously, and working with the musicians. We can't know everything about the instrument like they do. They're studying this for years. Yeah. They're a wealth of knowledge, and they were so willing to help, and we're really tactful as well in delivering that. That everyone was just so nice and supportive. And I think in working with James, it was really great because in these other opportunities we work with different composers, but they always bring something new.
Yeah.
And every time it's it's, oh wow, I didn't think of that, I haven't looked at it in that way. So it's a new perspective, and everyone has their own experiences, and he was really an amazing tutor. Yeah.
So Jane, from the point of view as a professional musician coming in and doing this, did you as the performers have an opportunity to enter into that process of refining and tweaking the compositions?
Yeah, definitely. Mainly in terms of what can you play on your instrument and what will work on your instrument. So there were lots of times where it was just like having discussions about alternate techniques that you could use that might work better, or even switching instrumentation to just provide a different colour. Or so, and I definitely learnt a lot too about what you can do on your own instrument by exploring lots of different techniques and a real variety of compositions as well.
Thank you, Finn, I think she's saying.
Well, no, thank you. Yeah. Why did you make me do that?
She's forever grateful.
I am, I will be.
Oh, that's great. Probably a final question, and I'll ask each of you in turn. Where do you see your future as a composer going post our ASME conference and this Composer in Residence project you've been involved in, Kale?
I'm so glad I was involved in it, because I'm hoping to come study here at UWA next year with these two, Isaac and Nathan.
Oh, the Three Musketeers, I love it.
WA.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to kicking off my composition career. It's what I want to do in life, for sure. And this has definitely given me an insight into how I compose. I remember being told with some of the stuff I have in my piece, especially for the violin, the bar top pits, I was told I'm going to have to buy the violins of new string. It's too much. It's worked out really well. I really appreciate all the feedback. And really looking forward to the future.
I sort of see my career similar to Kale's and looking into composition, but mainly with my sort of watching and enjoying of game music and also movie music, I sort of look that direction mainly with the way I want to go.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan.
Again, same, but Kale's already mentioned that. But I really want to get into more performance type things, especially jazz. Get into some combos. I know some people who are already at WAPA and stuff, so I've got things to do, I guess.
Places to go.
Places to go.
Love.
I'm not entirely sure. I've already applied for a lot of different things at uni, but I feel like if I wanted to study music, I would definitely stay at the Elder Conservatorium in Adelaide. And I don't know, I feel like if I did do composition, I would like to do film music or game music or something, because I did my SACE research project on film music, and I wrote two pieces for the same cartoon. One was happy and one was kind of scary, and I kind of talked about how they were different. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I feel like I'd really like writing film music. Yeah.
Well, this is a bit of a tough question for me, because I've got so much things I listen to. I don't really know how to put in my what to really do. I was thinking of just doing audio engineering, as in setting up stages or producing for bands or something. And I was thinking my composition skills will really help me with bands if I want to elevate the performance of the song they want to record, the album they want to do. But I was also thinking, since I do enjoy movies quite a lot, I was thinking I could do movie soundtracks and kind of implement my interests in terms of composition into movie soundtracks, and I think that'd be a possibility. But at the moment, I don't really know. There's just so much out there. The world's kind of your oyster when it comes to composition.
There's lots of avenues for it.
Yeah.
And what about you?
Kind of similarly, I think that's been the big thing for me being in first year, is that I've found that I just need to go where the opportunities take me. And so kind of outside of composition, my big passion is really towards the drama and theatre and especially film, because like I have my brother that's at film school, and I've kind of gone through a lot learning about film literacy and theory and things like that. That's something that I'm deeply interested in, and then applying my compositional knowledge to that as well. And also on the other hand is that I've been singing in choirs for a very long time with some deeply inspirational choral conductors that it's just always something that fascinates me about being able to conduct a choir. There is something so special about that group in particular, and that I find like my life highlights, even though I'm 17, my life highlights have been in those environments in which I've been like struck by what a choir can do. And I always love singing in choirs. I always love composing for choirs. And so it's kind of, I've framed myself, I've put myself in a position in which I've kind of put out hooks to both to see if, you know, well, I've done some things for film. If that's kind of more successful, it'll tug me in that direction. I've done some things for choir. I've, you know, if people are enjoying that, it'll pull me in that direction. So I've tried to kind of like keep myself open to those pathways, because I know that no matter what, if I'm following either of them, I will love what I'm doing.
And that's important.
It's the, yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? The key.
Totally.
Ben, what about you?
Well, I guess in the short to medium term, I'm studying at the Conservatorium in Tasmania, and I think I just want to keep doing more workshops like this, working with, you know, really high caliber musicians and getting feedback from awesome tutors. So I guess I'm kind of just seeing where it takes me. I really enjoy concert music, and working with the musicians and realising it. Not just sitting in your room and playing the piano. I think realising the music is the thing that makes me want to, you know, get up every day and do it. But then also I'm starting to work a bit as a freelance composer for film and other media, and also doing a bit of like audio post-production on films. So I think in terms of having a career and being able to live, I think some sort of portfolio.
Audio engineering.
I mean, I'm just kind of seeing where I'm not trying to just lock myself into this is how I identify as this kind of composer. But at the moment, it's cool being able to earn money from the thing that you like doing. I think it's also important to have a balance. So maybe it wouldn't be as fun if I was just doing that. And so it's good to have like passion projects as well. But I think a mixture of concert music and media composing and audio. Yeah.
Well, I think you're all remarkable. And Jane, thank you for joining the panel and giving us a bit of an insight from the professional musician's point of view. But really enjoyed your performances being performed this morning. I thought they were remarkable. You should all be very proud of yourselves. And thank you for taking the time to have a discussion. It's great. Is there any last thing you'd like to say before we wrap up? You can relax now because it's all done.
Well, thank you so much for
thank you.
And thank you to the musicians as well.
Absolutely. I think we're all deeply grateful for being given this opportunity, because I think that's the most valuable thing, being put in an environment in which we are directly working with musicians and then having our pieces performed, because it's just every single one of those experiences is kind of like 100 hours in a classroom. Like, you don't learn these things. No. You have to experience it, and that's kind of the most valuable thing.
To me, the best thing is hearing my piece being performed, and nothing else compares. It makes me feel so special as a composer to actually be sitting in an audience, or even I love conducting my pieces as well. Call me.
Could be a pro.
Anyways, it's just the most special thing. And especially being involved in this, it's made me feel so, like, just really happy with my work at the moment. And it shows me that I'm on the right track. And, you know, sometimes we doubt ourselves as musicians. Everyone does. So don't deny it.
It's the nature of the business, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's been so good. It's been so inspiring being part of the group and seeing what everyone's doing. And
Working with each other, I think, is one of the added bonuses of a project like this.
yeah, and also just seeing everyone come together from around Australia.
From every corner of Australia. It's
Yeah,
just like,
pretty much every
That's
corner.
great.
It's like Northern Territory.
are all of these people like on the same wavelength? What are they doing instead? What are they doing like the same thing as me? Like how are they thinking? And it's because we're all like from really like
Yeah.
different areas, and
Yeah.
it's really nice to see what we have in common and what we can learn from each other. And that it's because there's probably not many environments in which we'll all be together like this, and so it's really unique.
It can be a bit lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a bit lonely.
Especially-
Bring away.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you say.
especially being somewhere rural too, because even though we're kind of a big like town, we're no Sydney or anything, obviously, or Brisbane, where there's not Sydney, but with Brisbane and those places like Melbourne, has a lot of music going on. In terms of in Tamworth, there's just country music. It's not much. There's a little bit of diversity. You've got there's blues, a few blues rock comes around every now and then. Yeah, but it's mostly country. But yeah. Yeah.
And the added bonus is that you now know how to bow properly.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I've been taught this.
Down.
Have I shown motions today? Yes, I've shown motions today.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to have to wrap it up there. So thank you so much, and thank you, Jane, for joining us. That's fabulous. Thank you.
All right.